Welcome to the Steam Engine 253 Restoration Project facility. This is where Steam Engine number 253 is being restored to its normal condition. The engine itself, a 080 road switcher number 253, is the only one surviving out of the 30 that were like it. Near the Fort Pierce yard, when you approach the place, you would see a crossbuck with a WRRS mechanical bell, which sounds a lot like a wigwag bell. And you would see this too, a "Yes, we are open" sign for tours around the place. What you're looking at here is a piece of history. This is the Sebastian Depot. Used to be for the Florida East Coast Railway. From 1916 until 1968, the Sebastian Train Depot was used along the Florida East Coast Railway, with passengers and freight being loaded onto the trains and unloaded. When FEC stopped providing passenger service that year, the depot was used as a work storage building by Vickers Groves for about 40 years. Doesn't look too bad, does it? Now let's move on to the tour of Steam Engine 253.
This is an original Florida East Coast Railway steam locomotive. This is 080 road switcher number 253. Out of some 30 sisters, she's the only one left. She spent 25 years with the Louisiana Arkansas Railroad after the Florida East Coast Railway sold her in March of 1936. She's the only survivor. Got all the modern conveniences of late steam. Got power reverse, Walshart's valve gear, good sized pistons, so she's got lots of moving power.
The firebox itself is surrounded by a water jacket or water tank. All these bolts, these stay bolts, give great strength and stability to the steel sheets that have to contain all the weight of that water in motion. That's what all these devices are for. The firebox itself is filled with oil sprayed in there, ignited. That entire chamber is one mass of flame necessary to heat all the water. There are 8,000 gallons of water here in this tank, 2,000 gallons of fuel oil in the upper tank. Fuel and water, of course, to make the steam. Tom, you were saying power reverse?
That's power reverse.
Come on, Tommy and I are going to double team you. Keep your movie going.
Reverse lever up in the cab, attaches right up here, directs this device, which is connected to the valve gear assembly. At this point, it cross connects to the other side. So when you throw one side, you throw the other side in concert. The normal valve gear is timed by the eccentric crank right here, so that the valve assembly here is in time with the piston, so that it's always putting the steam exactly where you want it, so that you get motive power.
So it's mainly like a crankshaft, like somewhere in the car today.
That's basically akin to the camshaft and the push rods in a car engine.
Right.
The piston is actually giving steam on both sides, front and rear, so it's constantly pushed.
The valve will shuttle back and forth. As it shuttles to this side, it will allow steam here. As it shuttles back, it will allow steam here. So it's a push-pull. There's always force on it. The exhaust steam, Tom, that people that know the sound of the exhaust burst, rocket it out that stack.
Right straight up to the stack. And
railroaders produce useful work from their equipment. The knuckles very dangerous pieces to put your fingers around. It will close, and the pin will drop into place and lock this knuckle shut.
So this is the coupler.
This coupler will hold as much as 20,000 tons on the face of this coupler, face to face. It will not come apart until we release the strain and use the uncoupling lever. Tommy, smoke box.
Up to the side is the smoke box. At the top, right behind the headlight, is the smokestack. Behind that is the superheater manifold. Each of the holes you see actually would have a small pipe that's going to come out, run back and forth through the large blue tube holes to superheat the steam. We take the steam from 212 up to 500-600 degrees, so that when it finishes its work in the cylinders, it's still steam and will vent up the stack.
We're going to keep you moving because the
Original number plate is up here on the front of the smoke box. Normally, when a railroad sells their locomotive and it goes to another railroad, they'll actually change the number because the number systems don't line up. Some railroads use a particular number, like 200 series, for a particular class of locomotive. In this case, we in Arkansas did not. They were a small railroad, so they kept the original number because they didn't have a 200 series, and they were able to keep it. Further on down, again, we have two air tanks, one on each side. One is for the train line air pressure. The other is for the locomotive brakes itself. The air comes from the twin-cylinder compound air pump, so we get a double compression of the air. There's a lot of missing plumbing here. See how big these pipes really are. Those pipes are there to cool the air, let the moisture condense out, and then the moisture can be vented from the tank, so you only put air down the train line to the brakes.
If you were going to swing aboard here at 5 miles an hour in the middle of the night, the rainstorm, that's all the chance that you get. You got grab iron, and you have to get your foot on, or you're not going to mount up. You don't get that big gangway on the other side. That's all you get to get up on board, or you'll miss your train. Bob, 13 years. Bob Bates, owner of the steam engine, Steve and Bob Partners. 13 years ago, you picked the engine up where?
Out in Texas.
And
It was sold to the Louisiana and Arkansas Railroad right after the big stock crash. This was the only tourist railroad in existence at the time. So they had to sell off engines, cars, anything they could to buy box cars and freight cars to stay in business. This and two others were sold to the Louisiana and Arkansas Railroad. They used it up to 1955. Kept this one as the best one, scrapped the others. And it worked out. We were about 3 days from having this cut out for my partner and I. Salvaged it.
Whisker close, Bob. You're very, very lucky, and we are fortunate. Just moving us out of harm's way. We're in front of a lightning storm, so let's keep moving back to the
We've changed the bearings from the old friction type to roller bearings because they're less maintenance intensive and they're safer to use. If the lube failed, it would not be uncommon to have the bronze bearing that's up on top actually disintegrate, and when it does, you end up with the truck side frame settling on the steel axle, and you actually end up scoring it to the point where it'll fail. It's also not uncommon. The phrase hot box comes from these journals.
So that's why you get, like, if it's a hot box detector, you'll see milepost, and then it'll detect the hot box.
Yeah.
So this will be the hot box, right?
It goes back to these, because if this oil lube level fell down too far, you get heat build up here until you can actually get it to a point where it'll actually catch fire.
So that's why they say hot box defect detector.
Yep.
Got lightning flashing just beyond this building, so let's continue to move in this.
Coming off the track, like a tail light of a car, that there's something there. And above it, because this is a switch engine, goes in each direction. You have a headlight there too. So when you're running in reverse, you've got a headlight. When we haul people out of Fort Pierce, your engine will be turned around. We'll be going forward. And when we get out there, we'll pull up to a siding, disconnect, run the engine and tender around, recouple it to the back of the train, and we'll come back into Fort Pierce in reverse. If I can find it, I've got a picture. Somebody took it exactly the right time in the light at the stack of the train. Of course, it didn't hurt anybody because it went right down.
So,
Yes.
you're going to have a hard time stopping.
You know, to picture
This twin signal, clock signal, is made from USNS. We have a yellow on top, red on bottom. Pretty spiffy looking right here.